El Filibusterismo, Content and Context. El Filibusterismo is the second novel of Jose Rizal, the sequel of his first novel, Noli Me Tangere. The novel Noli Me Tangere was written amidst threats and oppressions he and his family were experiencing because of the Noli and the Calamba incident. This Calamba incident is all about the land dispute with the Dominican friars, in which the family of Rizal was evicted from their home. Rizal continued working on his novel and made some revisions while he was in London in 1888, and he completed the novel after 3 years in Beatrice, France, on March 29, 1891. However, because of financial constraint, Rizal did not publish his novel. Not until September at the same year, the book was published with the help of his friend named Valentin Ventura. In March 1887, after reading the Noli Me Tangere, Blumentritt, one of the friends of Jose Rizal, asked Rizal the meaning of the word filibuster because he did not find the meaning in the Spanish language, and this was the reply of Jose Rizal. The word filibuster is very little known in the Philippines. Ordinary people do not know it. I heard it for the first time in 1872 when the tragic execution took place. I still remember the terror it aroused. Even our father forbade us ever to utter it in the words Cavite, Burgos, and etc. The Manila newspaper and the Spaniards apply this word they want to render suspect of revolutionary activities. The educated fear the reach of the word. It does not have the meaning of life and works of Dr. Jose Rizal, freebooter, but it instead means a dangerous patriot who will soon be banged or presumptuous fellow. In March 1890, Wenceslao Ritana, the adversary of Dr. Jose Rizal and the one who wrote his first biographical account, wrote about the filibuster and described the term as the one who cages for the independence of the country, resorts to various extra-legal proceedings to reach the objective that he pursues. And by the end of 19th century, the Spanish colonial government defined filibuster as someone who works to separate our overseas provinces. With these definitions, one will have an idea about the plot of Rizal's second novel. It deals with subversions. It pictures the lives of people under an oppressive regime. It narrates the struggles of every Filipino in fighting for independence. El Filibusterismo also is dedicated to Gomborza, the three priests who were accused of being filibusters in 1872. Rizal expressed his high regard for the priests who become victims of the evil that I am trying to fight in his dedication. So this is what Dr. Jose Rizal wrote on his novel about the Gomborza. To the memory of the priest, Don Mariano Gomez, 85 years old, Don Jose Burgos, 30 years old, and Don Jacinto Zamora, 35 years old. Executed on the scaffold at Bagumbayan on February 28, 1872. The church, in refusing to degrade you, must place in doubt the crime imputed to you. The government, in shrouding your cause with mystery and obscurities, creates beliefs in some error committed in critical moments. And the whole Philippines, in venerating your memory and calling you martyr, is no way acknowledge your guilt. As long, therefore, as your participation in the Cavite uprising is not clearly shown whether or not you were patriots, whether or not you nourish sentiments of justice and liberty, I have the right to dedicate my work to you, as the victims of the evil that I am trying to fight, and while we wait for Spain to reinstate you and make herself jointly culpable for your death, let these pages serve as a belated wreath of dried leaves laid on your unknown graves, and may your blood be upon the hands of that who without sufficient proof assail your memory. However, Dr. Jose Rizal made mistakes in indicating the age of the three priests and the date they were executed. The Gomborza were publicly executed by garrote on the early morning on February 17, 1872. Gomez was then 73 years old, Burgos was 35, and Zamora was 37 years old. In her translation of the novel also, Soledad Lacson Locsin described the book based on the themes that can be seen in the story. El Fili begins where the novel leaves off, where love, romance, heroism, idealism, and tragedy turn to hate, bitterness, anger, delusionment, and vengeance. And unlike Nolly, El Fili burns with passion and ideology. Results biographers opined that El Fili showed his maturity as a novelist. So next is the synopsis of the El Filibusterismo. The story of El Filibusterismo revolved around the main character Simon, who was a wealthy jeweler, and Simon was Crisostomo Ibarra of the Noli Me Tangere, whom everyone thought was killed by the Guardia Civil at the Laguna de Bay 13 years ago. He was able to escape and flee to Cuba. He became wealthy and was able to establish connections with prominent Spanish officials. And upon his return to the Philippines, Simon became very influential. He became the consultant of the Governor General. And then Simon came back with his grand plan to exact revenge on Spanish officials and rescue his lover, Maria Clara, who entered the convent after learning Ibarra's death or his death. He planned to launch a revolution. He started by smuggling arms and recruiting followers, mainly from the exploited and abused natives. One of his recruits was Basilio, the son of Sisa, with the help of Capitan Tiago, the father of Maria Clara. Basilio that was able to study medicine in Manila. Simon also began to establish an alliance with Cabezang Tales. The character of Cabezang Tales in El Filibusterismo represents the natives and the farmers whose lands were by the friars and his revolutionary group. So, Cabezang Tales was a former cabeza de barangay who was maltreated by the friars. Using his position, Simon encouraged corruptions and more oppressive government policies to enlarge the people and thus provoke them to revolt. Simon's plan of the revolution were failed twice. In his first attempt, he decided not to signal the outbreak of the uprising upon hearing the news of Maria Clara's death. And then Basilio and other students were then arrested for allegedly forming a seditious organization. So, Simon arranged the release of Basilio, who became bitter and vengeful. However, he was very grateful to Simon and offered his full support for the revolution. So, the second attempt starting a revolution entailed planting a bomb at the wedding reception of Paulita Gomez and Juanito Gomez. So, Shaimi Tero will continue the synopsis of El Filibusterismo. That is the end of my report. Thank you and God bless.